Well, Tom, it's an extraordinary announcement for extraordinary times. And look, success in this instance looks like connecting and keeping more employees connected to their employer. Treasury estimates that 6 million employees will be taking up the JobKeeper allowance of $1,500 a fortnight. Importantly, it'll keep them engaged, it'll keep them connected to their employers, and we hope will mean that Australia is in the best possible position to take advantage of the uptick in the economy that we are confident we'll see once we get through the coronavirus health crisis, and importantly, helping keep those small businesses and medium businesses and large businesses indeed engaged and ready to go when that happens.
Obviously, this is a huge amount of money. We're assuming a lot of modelling was done, statistics were poured over. So what do you think you can keep unemployment to? What can you limit that ticking up to? Well,
Tom, there's no point speculating on that at the moment. This is a health crisis that has huge economic dimensions that's moving extraordinarily quickly. What we are doing, though, is every possible thing we can. Firstly, to improve the safety net for people, keeping businesses alive to the greatest extent possible, and now, through the JobKeeper payment, keeping people engaged with their employer. And there's no doubt there's going to be many hundreds of thousands of people who would otherwise have lost their jobs that now won't. But I don't see any point in speculating on what those numbers could be. At the moment, we're in the middle of a health crisis with significant economic dimensions. We're here, the Morrison government, to ensure that we keep as many people employed as possible. And as you've seen yesterday with the $130 billion announcement, which is on top of a range of other packages, that we're throwing everything we can to keep people employed and to keep the economy in a shape that means when we get through this, we're best placed to take advantage on the other side.
The payment goes to the employer and then on to the employee. Is there tax payable for that employee?
It's taxable, and you've got to remember, Tom, this is the first $1,500 that's being guaranteed by the government. In many cases, employees will be paid more than that. This is obviously a significant guarantee that reduces that burden for businesses, but it has to be paid to the employee, and it's a taxable amount as any other is.
It's a huge amount of money. Was there any pause for thought as a government and one that came in wanting to reduce debt to shovel this much extra money out on top of other money already spent?
Tom, of course there was pause for thought. Of course we have been methodical in each decision we've taken, whether it was the first $17 billion package, the $66 billion package, the $105 billion to support our banking system, and now obviously this $130 billion package. We have thought very deeply about these issues, and there's no doubt that this is debt that we will be repaying for a very long time, but in our view, keeping people employed, keeping the businesses that employ them in a shape that they are there to at least be there on the other side of this crisis is much more important. And Tom, you know, from our perspective, there are times like this where extraordinary, unprecedented times where we have to suspend ideology and do what's in the best interests of Australians, and that's what we've done here. And we are confident that this is going to put us in the best possible shape, looking at all of our international counterparts, but put us in the best possible shape to take advantage of the inevitable upside that it will arrive eventually once we get through this health crisis.
A few of your regular critics are giving it the thumbs up, which I suppose it's not always what you judge things on, Michael Sukkar, but I'm sure it's of some pleasure for the government. Just want to ask you as well, huge income tax cuts are scheduled to come in. Are they still guaranteed?
Yeah, look, our broad economic plan, Tom, remains in place, and I can tell you right now is not the time to be walking away from more money in people's pockets. Obviously, we've announced two $750 payments the first of which is starting to be paid today, in addition to the coronavirus supplement of $550 that supplements the job seeker payment, and now obviously this job keeper payment, which really strengthens our safety net. The last thing that the government would be doing is anything that takes money out of people's pockets. This is why lower taxes and our broader economic plan of reducing taxes, of course, we're committed to, and people are going to need every single one of those dollars in tax cuts, and that's why we've delivered them.
And just finally, you mentioned a much bigger debt at the end of all of this and to pay it off over many years. Is everything on the table in terms of that approach, including tax concessions, negative gearing, for example? Will you look at all options to be able to pay that off so it's not just about spending cuts? Well,
Tom, what the Prime Minister and the Treasurer showed last year with the first balanced budget in 11 years is if we get the settings right, if we focus on jobs growth, focus on economic growth, that you are able to get back into a sustainable budget position through a strong economy. That's what we're focusing on now. How do we maintain as much strength in our economy as possible in obviously extraordinarily difficult times, at a time when large swathes of the economy have effectively been shut down for health reasons? So our focus will be, and will continue to be, how do we keep people employed, how do we keep businesses in business, and how do we therefore grow the economy? Because I think that's always the high road back to budget health. We've done it before, and I'm confident we'll be able to do it again in the future.
There was also a debt and deficit levy, though. Is that something that will have to be in place, possibly for a very long time, and not just high-income earners paying it?
Tom, I think you're getting a bit ahead of yourself. We are in the middle of the most unprecedented health crisis that has huge economic dimensions in any of our lifetimes, in fact, for 100 years. And we're focused now on how we can ensure that we've got a strong safety net for those people who are impacted, how we can keep people connected to their employers, how we can keep their employers' businesses in business, and that is our focus. We're in the middle of it. I don't think it serves us well to think too far into the future, because we've got work to do for the Australian people right now to address this crisis, and that's what we're doing. We've shown we're willing to work day and night to deliver these things, and we'll continue to monitor the situation. But of course, in the long run, Tom, we are looking at, and we'll always consider ways that we can keep an economy strong, sustainable, in the greatest traditions of coalition governments.